Hi, everybody, and welcome to tonight's show. I am so excited about our guest. Aren't you, Brian?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
It's going to be another fun show tonight. But before we get started, I want to give a brief introduction for those of you who are not familiar with my co-host, co-creator of the Celebrity Creators, and that's Brian Kelly. Brian has over 23 years of dang it, I goofed up already. 24 years of software experience. He co-owned and co-created a travel-based MLM for 6.5 years, has a multitude of social media experience, as you can see by what's put together here, technology experience. Brian, welcome to the show tonight. I'm excited to get started with another Tuesday night. And I want to say quickly, this is going to be our last show for 2010. We've got some creative stuff that we're going to be putting together, and our next show is going to be on January 4th. Just wanted to get that out there so that we don't forget tonight. I know you would have picked up on that. Over to you.
And what a great year it has been, and thank you for a great introduction there, Kathy. Everyone, this is Kathy Stover. To my left, to your right, of course. She has got a wealth of background and experience spanning back to the mid-'80s, probably beyond that, but we're not going to age anyone here. But she's been an operations and sales manager for over 25 years with a Fortune 500 company. She's been in network marketing, affiliate marketing, dating back to the mid-'80s. She is incredible at it. She's most recently become a highly successful social media coach. Her marketing prowess is way up here. She sets the bar for it. She's also an author and a budding speaker, and very, very good on eBay. There's a better word than good, but it just escaped me right there. And she has certificates to prove it. But we want to get moving on to this show. But everyone, I want first you to say hello to Kathy. Kathy, thank you for being my co-host and the co-creator of this very show, because without you, the show could not go on. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, you know, I share those sentiments. But yes, let's get started with our guest. We're excited to talk to you tonight about Corinne Gregory. She is the president and founder of Social Smarts, a nationally recognized program for developing strong social skills, positive character, and values in children and adults. Corinne is an author, speaker, advisor, and leading authority on education, business, and family development topics. Her media appearances include, of course, the Celebrity Creators Show, the Today Show, CNN, Time Magazine, USA Today, the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Parents Magazine, and many, many more. She recently was awarded the Phi Delta Kappa's Distinguished Educator Award for Innovative Leadership and Dedication. She is a phenomenal woman. Besides her previously published technology and business-focused books, she's working on several books related to the Social Smarts program, parenting, education, and reform. And we all know how important that is, particularly in this day and time. Her most recent, It's Not Who You Know, It's How You Treat Them, 5 Social Smarts Secrets Today's Business Leaders Need to Stand Out and Be Successful, is available now. And she's going to share a little bit about that with us here during the show. So I would like to, along with Brian, introduce our very special guest, Corinne Gregory. Welcome to the show, Corinne.
Hi, Corinne.
Hi, Kathy and Brian. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. And you are from the Seattle area, is that correct?
I am indeed.
Excellent. She's joining us from the Seattle area. Kathy is in the Northern California, Sacramento-ish area, and I am from the LA-ish area in Southern California. But wanted to thank you so much, Corinne, for coming on the show with us to spend this lovely hour together. We are going to have a blast. Usually don't open by saying stuff like this, but Corinne has a book, and I just want to show it real quick. It's Not Who You Know, It's How You Treat Them. And it's a great read, easy read, very well written, just love it. And the topic is very intriguing, and that's one of the reasons we invited Corinne to be on our show. So let's jump right into it. There's a lot of technology out there now, Corinne, that, you know, it's mind-boggling. But particularly with social media, you know, how can we work effectively with people and keep our people skills honed with this online approach to communication?
Well, interesting that you asked that question. Sometimes I feel as though social media is already becoming kind of the anti-social media. And I think, we have to keep in mind that technology can be very, very useful. It can let us be in touch with people that we wouldn't normally be in touch with. It gives us the capability to reach out in ways that we never imagined possible, share, images, share video, share content. Heck, if it wasn't for social media and technology, we wouldn't be doing this right now. But at the same time, you have to remember it's a tool. Just like a calculator is a tool for doing math, social media is a tool for interaction, and you need to keep a lot of the same things in mind that you would if you were interacting face-to-face that you now can do over social media. So I think it's very important for people to realize that it can grow a life of its own, but you need to use it as a tool. And the way to continue to hone our social skills, literally, is by using it as though it is a tool for accomplishing relationship building.
Well, part of social media obviously is communication, right? It's just a different form of communication, and it seems to be taking on a life of its own. I find that I'm more involved with social media than I had ever been previously. If you take the time to pick up the phone, to chat even with business clients or business acquaintances, it takes a period of time, and somehow you're able to shift through and make a few comments here and there on different social media channels and still get some sort of communication out there. But from reading your book, and your book is phenomenal, communication is an art, and I'm almost feeling that in some sense that it could get buried in some of the social media strategy that we're using. How important is communication from the level in what you share in the book to us right now in this day and time?
I think it's becoming increasingly important to think not only, and I'm going to use this term colloquially, and I'll explain what I mean, to think about what we want to say and particularly how we want to say it. What I mean by that is when you think about how technology has evolved, when you look at it this way, when you are in face-to-face communication, you have all of your senses involved. You have obviously your verbal. You can pick up on nonverbal body language types of skills. You can hear inflections in tone, in voice. You can, there's so many nuances that are involved when you're in face-to-face communication. Every time you take another layer of that personal away, let's say, for example, a phone call. Well, on a phone call, a regular phone call, not one of these newfangled fancy ones, but in a regular phone call, you lose the ability to connect with people visually, right? So you have to think much more, you take away the visual, you rely much more on the tone and the actual words themselves. Now take it to one step further, a written word, whether it's on the computer or whether it's a handwritten note. You've taken away another layer of communication ability. You no longer have tone and inflection, you have to rely very much on your words. The same thing really you need to think about when you're using social media. Don't just think about what you're going to say. Think about how you're going to communicate it, and most importantly, what is the message you want your audience to take away from that? We're so wrapped up very often in what we want to communicate that we don't really think about how the message will be received. And so I think a lot of times when, we see a lot on Facebook about people taking snapshots of their food or talking about I did this and I did that. I mean, I'm sorry, very often I look at this and say, and this is important to me. Why? If we're going to be a group and a community, then the idea is for sharing information that is relevant and interesting to the recipients, not just to the sender. And I think we have to really, really stop and think about why is it that we want to make this communication. If you're not adding value, even if it's personal, if you're not adding value, don't jump into the conversation. And I think that's very important nowadays.
Yes, very interesting, and that is so true. And I think Twitter started a lot of that, where folks were saying, they're taking a picture of their sushi plate and saying, this is what I'm eating today, and we're all looking at it going, well, this is a novel concept, so a lot of people picked up and did the same, very similar things. But the novelty, for all intents and purposes, has worn off, in my opinion. We've seen Twitter kind of go down in popularity, Kathy and I have especially, and Facebook has kind of taken over that area. It's interesting, Kathy, weren't we just talking about the very topic of, texting and non-personal communication earlier today We just had this very conversation. Yes. You were making some great points about exactly what Corrine just stated. And it had nothing to do with the fact that this show was coming on. It was just a topic she and I were talking about, right in line with what you just said, Corrine. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's in chapter 3 of your book, you discuss this concept, or the whole concept around your attitude when, what kind of part that plays while you're communicating with others. Can you expand on that a little bit? What does your attitude have to do with that?
Well, really, when you think about it, we all know genuine people and non-genuine people. I mean, we immediately think, people that are putting on an act, if people are, playing a role, or they're just kind of fakey and phony, right? If your attitude is not properly aligned with what you're trying to accomplish, and what I mean by that is, for example, get out of thinking it's all about you. It's not all about you. It really shouldn't be all about you, and you're, everybody walking around these days thinking I'm all that, and the reality is that there's too many of the self-centered, overly empowered individuals that are running around that they don't really stop to think, what about the other people? And I think the first thing you have to do is realign your attitude and realize that if you think more about what's in it for the other person, what is in it for my family, what is in it for the business people that I deal with, what is it for the other people I come in contact with, then you get out of that, okay, it's all about me, it's all about what I can get, it's all about what I can accomplish, and you start sending out positive, I hate to use this, it sounds so new age, but positive energy out to the other people you're dealing with. So the first thing you have to do is think about, you're changing your mindset, because this world right now, this society can make us increasingly think about it's all about me and number one. And really, again, you have to consider, what about the other people that I interact with? What are they going to get from this interaction? And I have a firm belief that successful social skills means that no matter what interaction you're having with people, that you leave a positive impression, even if it's a negative situation, that you leave some sort of positive out of it. And we really want to start thinking in terms of changing our mindset, changing our attitude, and with realigning our attitude, that sets us up then for our behaviors being aligned with those attitudes.
That makes a lot of sense. I kind of want to revisit the picture of the food on the plate. I know I'm going back a little bit, but I was kind of thinking about that. And because there are a lot of brick and mortar businesses, restaurants, mom and pop restaurants in particular. So I'm thinking that's almost a form of communication, other than just sitting there and taking a picture of a donut and saying you're eating a donut. But it can be, from a social media standpoint, a form of communication by sharing, so that it promotes where you're at, and shows what it is that you're eating, if it's being utilized in that way. So I totally get what you were saying from just taking a picture. That would be like taking a picture of your toothpaste tube and saying, I'm getting ready to brush my teeth, right?
That's right.
But it can be a very positive form of marketing and communication, taking a picture of food. So I just kind of wanted to interject that a little bit for some of our restaurateur friends out there, because that is important.
But you just made the point. It all depends on intent. If your intent is to show off, oh, look at this fancy meal I'm eating, isn't this wonderful, look where I am, then again, that's all about me, isn't it? As opposed to, hey gang, I just had this absolutely fabulous meal, you guys might want to check out this restaurant. That's really about others, isn't it? So that's exactly what I was just talking about.
I love how you put that in there. And so with that being said, how can we form and develop communication so that it becomes a win-win situation for everybody concerned?
Well, and of course, as I refer to in my book, I want to take it one step further than a win-win. I want it to be a win-win-win, the mutual win, which actually says that, sure, what's in it for me, what's in it for you, but then what's in it for us together that is actually stronger than what we can accomplish individually. So in the case of something like that, you might want to be, the restaurant example is a little bit tough, but let's just say you do want to be able to communicate to friends, look, there's a brand new restaurant that opened up, this is really fabulous, look how great the meal is, I want to share that with you. Or your regular communications with people, which might be, I was just tipped off to a resource. And I know there's people on Facebook, for example, that are really good about this. Now, I was just tipped off to this resource that might be of value to you. You might want to check this out. And it may also be something that helps you. But first and foremost, the intent is to help the people that you're in connection with. And those are the types of things we want to think about. And even how you communicate that. Instead of, we're so focused on using, I thought you should, or this is what I found, as opposed to, you might want to look into this and here's why it would benefit you. That's a very different approach than saying, well, I think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You should go check it out. It's a subtlety, but it is an attitude change.
You make a strong point there, because it is very difficult for many of us to basically extract and take out the word I in a conversation. And it sounds like what you're saying, if we can concentrate and hone that skill of, not completely eradicating it, because then we would not be human, but to reduce it drastically, and that would by default put the emphasis on the other individual, then you could achieve your goal in that respect. Does that sound online?
Yep, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, it's very, very difficult to completely excise that word from our communication. In fact, we shouldn't, because there's a huge level of personalization. And if we're talking about building and maintaining relationships, you need to get into personalization. So to just completely abdicate the idea of, well, what do I care about, isn't really effective either. But certainly thinking first and foremost, especially in business communication, why should somebody else care? Why does this matter to them? It's pretty obvious to you why it matters to you.
Yeah.
Why does it matter to them? And that's, for example, with strategic alliances and networking. I find, the old concept of networking is when you went trolling around with business cards and said, well, I want to meet up with that person and that person and that person because I want to connect with them. I turn it around and say, and this would be of value to that other person. Why? Everybody knows that the sun rises and sets by me, right? And I walk into a room and everybody should want to meet me, right? No. Let's go back to what's in it for the other person and what value can you add to them wanting to get to know you. And it turns networking a little on its ear. But I think it's much more, it's first of all, it's much more effective. And I think it's less sleazy. Can I say that word?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like all our
I think,
go right ahead.
I was going to say, Brian and I have experienced that whole mode of thinking more so this year than I think we have ever. I think, Brian, you'll agree with that.
Yes.
We've had some people on our show that have shared that concept with us. One of them was Jabez Lebret, one of the first.
Yeah.
Not that people not demonstrating that type of connection or interchange with people, but he specifically talked about contribution leadership.
Yes.
Brian and I found that we were actually interjecting that in the connections that we were making, unbeknownst to us that it was a shift or different from what most people were doing. But throughout this year, we have watched some people kind of transition into this different place and space mindset, whatever you want to call it. And it gives a totally different feeling in how you're receiving what they're sharing with you. It's just a whole different interchange and very, very pleasant.
Very.
But anyway, I just wanted to interject that.
That's a great interjection. I completely concur. And like Corrine is talking about, what it really provided for us was an attitude shift in a very positive way. And Jabez was phenomenal at showing us. He walked the walk. He demonstrated it without us even knowing who he was at the time. It was we'll go through that story some other time, but it really made an impact on both Kathy and I. And since then, we've employed. It's very simple to do what he had shown us. And Corrine, you're hitting the nail on the head as well. That if you shift your attitude and put your focus on the other individual, like you said, everyone should be focused on me. That's how so many people. I love how you said trolling with the business cards. That was funny.
Well, isn't that true though? Don't you feel that way?
Love it.
That was the good old days.
But
that's what it really feels like. Is it sort of the business equivalent of the Friday night bar scene? Like, oh please, make sure you hand up with 50 cards. Trade out 50 for 50 more. Look, I've got 50 connections. No.
I always equated him to like throwing those Chinese Death Stars, just tossing them around. But for folks watching the show right now, I just want to give a quick note to be sure to, after the show is over, not now, but after the show is over, you see Corrine's still picture above us. Click right on her nose. That's the sweet spot. There. Click right on her nose. and you will be taken to her Facebook page. Get connected with her that way. In addition, as you see beneath us, we have 2 banners, both of which are representative of Corinne Gregory. The first is Social Smarts, which is the company she has founded, and also the second, as you have seen already, is the book she has written. Be sure to click on each of those and get more information. We're going to go further on into this show, and you're going to find out you definitely want to get connected with Corinne if you haven't already. This is a woman of integrity that Kathy and I have personally met, and she did something at an event that really struck me in a very positive way, and I will never forget that, Corinne, and I thanked you then, and I thank you again now for basically stepping up and saying a prayer for a fallen but recovered comrade of ours, who, a friend of ours, Dad, who actually, he fell off the stage and he got better, but we were very happy for that. But anyway, I wanted to let people know that this is an individual. She is a human being, and she's she's got a huge heart, very caring individual, not just a business person on a show trying to promote herself, not by any stretch. Very, very integrity-based individual. We thank you again for coming on our show, and we're not done.
Hopefully you're done saying all these great things about me. This is embarrassing.
Well, you know, the other thing that this is a great place to segue and interject this too. And this all started talking about an integrity-based and character-driven woman. It starts with children and with kids. And your idea for your program started with children and kind of segued into the adults. Is that correct? You want to share with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. My life's passion is helping people of all ages develop the positive social skills and character that they need to be successful personally and professionally. But one of the places that we need it so much these days is in the school systems. And literally every problem that we have in the school system today, from low academic achievement to the achievement gap to teacher burnout to the epidemic of bullying and school-based violence, all that is on the continuum of poor social skills and character. And the way this originally started out is developing the Social Smarts program for schools, which, by the way, it's been adopted in 11 states across the country. And because of the really big push right now with all the tragedies of bullying and bullying suicides, and a lot of schools just saying, look, we can't afford to do more, I've said, fine, it's not about the money, so we're actually donating up to 1,000 schools the Social Smarts program if they want it. But the Social Smarts program has always had a parenting and adult component to it. And when employers' number one complaint right now, particularly of the young people getting into the job market, is that they really lack those soft skills, those interpersonal skills that they need to be successful, so that employers have to retrain, or not even retrain, but train from the beginning these kind of skills that these kids never learned early on. I decided at that point, man, the adult sandbox called the workplace needs this kind of a program, this kind of approach almost as much, if not more, than the schools do. And so hence the beginning of the It's Not Who You Know, It's How You Treat Them book, which was basically taking the social smarts concepts and bringing them into the business world and making them accessible to business people.
And it's a wonderful concept. Wonderful. It's fantastic. And its time is now to get this word out. And kudos to you for writing this book at this time and age when it's so badly needed. Wanted to ask you about another topic that comes up where, when you're looking at someone face to face for the first time, and let's say it's someone you are trying to impress or at least get their attention, well, you want to make a very, very good first impression, the best you can, hit a home run, if you will, to really make an impact so they will not forget you when you shake hands and the hands release, they don't forget your name. You don't want them to do that. Now, when that's personal, and that, when you're one-on-one and you're making physical contact, say, or shaking a hand or patting a shoulder or what have you, it's a different dynamic than if you're doing that same or trying to achieve that same goal on the internet. How can we tailor our first impression via the internet?
Well, the same rules apply that would be in person. What I mean by that is, do you realize that you have 27 seconds to make that first impression? And when you think about it, it sounds kind of like a long time, but what happens in 27 seconds in person is essentially you walk up to the person that you're about to meet, you make eye contact, you shake hands, you say hello, introductory statement, and then you move on to the next thing. That's your 27 seconds. The interesting thing is with the internet, not so much in a virtual physical type of situation like this. You have still the same abilities, and you still have to at least look like you're paying attention. I mean, if I were sitting here and looking all around, even though we're doing this interview, it's very clear that I'm not focused on my job at hand. I'm not engaged. But you really only have about 10 to 15 seconds in internet time to make that same impression. And heaven forbid that first impression is via written word or email.
Exactly.
You literally have about 5 to 10 seconds before somebody decides, yes, I want to keep going, or delete. So you need to think about what is it that you're trying to accomplish, because in internet time, it's not like I jokingly say with my husband, which is football time, but in internet time, everything happens faster. And if you want to make a good impression, I'm not going to be able to shake hands at here with you and Kathy, Brian. But what I can do is I can, in the very first few seconds, say something that is memorable or position myself in a way that's memorable. Again, something that might be of interest to you, not necessarily something about me. Those are the kind of things that we need to think about.
Interesting.
And, you know, and this was weird the first time I did an off-camera, basically a remote TV interview. I kept having to remember to look at the camera, even though I really wanted to make eye contact with the person I was talking to on the monitor. And it's hard because we naturally want to make eye contact.
Yes.
So you have to sometimes just program yourself to think the eyes are there. Very different. But that's the same thing you have to do, the same things you have to consider when you're doing face-to-face communication via the internet.
You know, I think that's why video is so important and very relevant right now. You know, obviously we're not touching each other, and being live as we are is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I think that, like you're talking about, even when you're just shooting a video of you talking to your client, your business partner, whomever it is that you're communicating to, your coaching clients, whatever, visually looking into the camera and just expressing yourself, body language and all of those things are very important, along with voice inflection, so that you can get your point across and have the viewer really feel what it is that you're trying to share and say. Brian, I didn't mean to talk over you. What were you going to share there?
You hit it's exactly what I was thinking. And the other thing was, and I don't mean this as a joke, but what if the individual is a slow reader and all you have is text? If you only have 10 to 15 seconds or less and they're reading slowly and you've lost their attention, well, video is the answer. And we've had other guests on our show that talk about video. We won't go down that path, but I was thinking the exact same thing, that, you know, use what Corrine is telling you if you have a website to convey your message via video. If it's an email, simply put a link to your page, make it very succinct, very, very short, 5 to 10 words, one sentence, very compelling, and send them to a page that is a video. And that way you can overcome this, if they have a slow reading issue and attention span, this can help. That was perfect, right on.
Well, you know, and the other thing that I wanted to say here as well is, if people are a little camera shy, just putting up a great PowerPoint presentation and just sharing, you know, your voice inflection with it. Some people have better voice inflection than others, but I think that what you're talking about, Corrine, is just having that type of connection, whether it be with video or with PowerPoint. If we can't be face-to-face and touching and shaking hands and that kind of thing, that perhaps utilizing it in that way might be a very valuable step, if we're not able to do the, you know, touching the skin, so to speak.
Sure. And again, and let me tell you from my perspective, because I remember, 3 years ago, I think it was, one of my business associates or business acquaintances said, you know, there was, do you remember when the cheerleader beating, the smackdown, happened in Florida, where the 7 cheerleaders basically, you know, ambushed the one young girl, and you saw that all over YouTube? Well, yes. I had a business associate who said, Corrine, this is your chance. That particular video on YouTube is getting hundreds of thousands of hits. And I said, great, what do I do about it? You know, because I'm thinking, well, you know, what am I going to write, if you will, to respond? And she said, well, you can comment. She said, but you know what? You were such an advocate about bullying. You need to get on there and do a video and post a video response. And I said, say what? I don't know nothing about birth and no video, right? And it was very self-conscious and felt very weird. Never mind my camera experience, but I felt very weird, and I felt very egocentric putting up a video response to something like that. But I'll tell you what ended up happening is, yes, people can read my work. And, you know, if you've read the book, you know I share a lot of my personality in the book, too. It's not just dry and boring. But there's a huge difference between sharing your personality on camera and with your voice and what you were talking about, and making a point much stronger because, you know, what was it, Craig, that says, you know, they won't know, or James Malinchak, I think, says they won't listen to you until they know you.
Yeah.
What better way to let somebody get to know you than to see you, to hear you, you know, to see all 98 pounds dripping wet of me and see my energy and notice how passionate I am about my topic. You're not selling at that point. You're doing what you're good at. You're communicating, and that is a personal touch that you can use the technology to build that personal relationship with people that you may never see. Very interesting concept. So I kind of got over that. It's still weird, but I get over it.
I was going to say that must have been some time ago that you were camera shy, because you're very natural and very relaxed, and you seem like a natural.
Well, it's not camera shy. I mean, I always joke that my very first TV experience ever, believe it or not, was the Today Show. And I came into that thing realizing, okay, I'm going to be live in front of 4 million people, I'm 4 million audience, but I had to psych myself out to do it, because I basically said once I hit that green room, I don't want anybody in that area to know, you know, to get the feeling that I don't do this every single day of the week. So if you want to talk about trial by fire, you know, now since then I've gotten a lot more comfortable. But it's different pointing a video camera at myself and going, talk. You know, because again, then I want to make sure I am giving a message that the audience wants to hear, not just Corinne Gregory spouting off on what, you know, she thinks is relevant and fascinating. I don't want people to think I'm doing it because I want to be fascinating. I want people to think I'm doing it because I'm conveying an important message. And again, that's that attitude shift. And if I'm just sitting there talking to a video camera, and a lot of people do this, a lot of people sit there and go, about this and about that and what I think. No, what do you think people need to hear? What do they want to get out of the message? And then I think that you're doing it for the right reasons.
Well, and you definitely have a very important message to share. That's for sure. Very, very important. And then, you know, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is, you know, we are so busy in life and we're so busy in business. And right now, with the holidays fastly approaching, some of our friends that are going through Hanukkah right now, they're already in the holiday season. We've got Christmas coming. All of these things that just, you know, take our time, you know, business, family life. So with all of these things that tend to preoccupy us, they're all important things. How do we keep our level of communication going?
Well, I hate to put it this way, but I think nowadays we almost have to schedule it. And what I mean is, again, we get so busy doing, you know, like I get very busy doing Corinne things. You probably get very busy doing Kathy things. Brian's off. Well, Brian's certainly off doing Brian things, I'm sure. But we're so busy trying to complete our to-do list that sometimes we forget about the importance of making time for other people. And I think no man really is an island. I mean, there are people that are certainly real loners. But part of our own satisfaction, our life satisfaction, comes in the connections we make and keep with other people. And unfortunately, because we are so busy, we may have to make time. For example, here's a great case in point. There may be some times where, sure, it's really easy to dash off an email. Very effective, dash that thing off, tap, tap, tap. I can do it at my own convenience, as opposed to thinking about, okay, now when can I schedule a phone call? But think about, in the context of what you're trying to accomplish, is the phone call more effective for achieving your objective, even if it takes a little more time?
Yeah.
Or can you just as well get it done with an email? Or nowadays, a real face-to-face meeting conveys with it a certain level of importance. If you're actually going to take the time to drive downtown, to set up this meeting, to go back and forth, to do all this, then there must be something really, really important. And if you're willing to do that for somebody else, doesn't that give us sort of a context of, you are very important to me to spend that much time to spend that time with you? So those are the types of things we have to evaluate and say, what is the best use of my time? Not from the best use of what works for me, but the best use of what works for the other person. And I think, again, it goes to that attitude shift. You know, could we have done this audio only? Probably. Absolutely we could have. But the video is much more powerful. Yes, we've taken out, an hour and a half of our time plus the setup time to do this, but the end product for what we're giving the audience is much better and much of greater value than if we just, sent out a stream of emails or, we can answer these questions in email, right?
Right.
So what are we really trying to accomplish? And then sometimes that extra time is worth it. And especially with friends and family, don't we always think that our friends and family are always going to understand how busy we are?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught in that trap.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing that I think all of us are guilty of. Multitasking upon multitasking. I mean, how many times are we on the phone while we're tapping away at our keyboard at the same time, right?
And
we're not really focused. Really, if you think about it, we're not really focused on either action because somebody says something to our ear, like, what? I'm sorry, I missed your question. In the meantime, what was I typing? So we're doing a disservice to all three parties involved, the person we're typing to, the person we're on the phone with, and frankly also ourselves, because we're not getting 100%, we're not engaged and focused at that time with the people that we should be focused with. The email can wait, right? If you're on the phone with somebody,
Well,
shouldn't get hired.
That's interesting you should say that, because now I've gotten to the point, and I know Brian has too. If we are going through this multitasking phase while we are trying to discuss something that we're working on, every once in a while he'll interject, "You're checking email, aren't you?" And I will say, "Texting." You know what I'm? So you kind of develop this sense when you know that the other individual is not giving you their full attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's our way of saying busted.
Yeah. Well, it's like that when you start getting the responses on the phone, like, "Hello, you with me or what?"
That was a no question. That was a no answer there.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, you can't make the eye contact on the phones. This is my point. You can't make the eye contact that shows you that you're really focused and engaged on the other person. I mean, when you're connected to somebody and having a conversation, again, you can be looking away and having that conversation, but you know that they're connected with you when you're making eye contact.
Yeah.
And at least give your caller that same attention, that same courtesy. Because really, if the roles were reversed, wouldn't you want that from them? And that to me is really the guiding principle for a lot of things, is the golden rule. I'm sorry, treat others the way you want them to treat you. If you really keep that at the forefront of your mind, not only will your attitude be properly aligned, but so will your actions 99% of the time. And I think we've forgotten that.
And you can even take it a step further, and Kathy and I preach this a lot on the shows, is to actually make an effort to get out more and not just go out to dinner. Talking about events, like what is in your genre of business or clubs or church activities, but get out and into another building with a group of people where you meet one-on-one. And Kathy and I have met so many people that way, that created a more powerful relationship than any live video, teleseminar, phone call, text message, email could have. You cannot put you can't quantify the value of that. And so Kathy and I made it a point to go to as many, for us, entrepreneur events as we possibly could. And we met you, Corrine, at one such event. And look,
right.
We're going to have a lifelong business relationship and friendship as a result of that. And you cannot put a dollar amount on that. And this isn't about making money at this, what I'm talking about this very second. It's about making that connection that later on it could turn into money. It may not. It doesn't matter. You've made a connection, a relationship. We are human beings, and it's a great thing. It's very powerful to get out.
Well, I thought it was fabulous. I'd had so many people already on Facebook, for example, that I was involved with. My peeps, but your Facebook friends, and I find that that word troubles me because how are you friends with people who just sort of glom into your community? But the point I was going to make is I've had such pleasure and had the opportunity to meet for real people that I know from Facebook. And for example, Kathy, Brian, I'd seen your name on Facebook through Craig. We had that connection, but then to actually meet you, that was like, oh my gosh, so you're Kathy, you're Brian. This is really great. And you're right, we now have a connection. Now you say Kathy and Brian, and you don't just picture a little picture on Facebook. Kathy and Brian, I've spent time with them. I've had conversations. We've done, all sorts of things. And now when we find each other on Facebook, that has a completely different meaning than if we were just throwing a few pictures or videos here and there. So I think that's really, really huge. And whenever you can, you should try to recreate that sort of thing with the people that you're connecting with professionally. You know, it may not be everybody that you know that you meet one-on-one, but again, sometimes I think it's interesting to the different layers of relationship you have. So if you're used to being, you know, on Facebook, but you do business with somebody, well, then pick up the phone and call them and talk to them and listen to their voice. Or if you do have an opportunity to meet them, let's say you're going to the city where they are, why don't you just meet up for coffee with no agenda other than to say, I really want to get to know you. It takes a little extra time, but you never know what will come of it. And those type of people are the ones that you tend to follow, you tend to stick around with, and they become part of your true network of acquaintances and friends and business associates, as opposed to, you know, a Rolodex full of business cards.
Interesting you bring that up. And this isn't to toot my own horn, but I was fortunate enough because of where I live to do just what you recommend. Maurice Domino, a mutual friend of ours, was doing a short speaking engagement, just an intro. He was the MC of an event fairly local. It was about a 40-50 minute drive from where I live. And solely because of him, primarily because of him, I didn't know many other people at the event. But I wanted to go see how he handled that situation versus a full-blown boot camp that we had been to, Kathy and I had been to prior, to learn more from him. But also he's a great guy, and I just wanted to spend the time in his presence to see how he did that event. And I told him that. He goes, "What? Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "I came because you're here." And I meant it. I don't know if he believed it, but I meant it. And
well, he was in Seattle not too long ago, and we tried to meet up for coffee, but it didn't quite happen. So, but that's the kind of thing I love doing is, you know, I will now look actively when I'm traveling across the country speaking. I'll try to figure out who is in that neck of the woods, and can I drop in and buy someone a cup of coffee? So it's kind of cool.
You know, we recently had a guest on our show, Donna Lang, and how she connected with us was through Facebook. We had not met her, and she, you know, we just kind of connected, and she has a plan, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but she actually looks for people who, when she's connecting with Facebook, who with common interests and et cetera, whatever the combination is. Sure. And she will make it a point not only to connect by introducing herself, but also by making a phone call. So she goes one step further than just, you know, the kind of back and forth introduction type thing, but actually develops a relationship in that way. And she, and again, she has a number that she sets up so many per month that she actually really wants to meet these people and connects with and shares with. She's a phenomenal woman. She was a great guest as well, but just a different take on communicating with people beyond just the typing and the picture thing back and forth.
Well, good for her. That's a great policy.
You're absolutely right about that, Kathy. And when you said her name, instantly a smile came to my face, or at least to my mind. I don't know if I physically did it because we don't always. But, you know, not even just through voice, but her emails had this flair about them that it just made you feel good. You know, anytime she corresponded with us, it was so glowing and wonderful that she gets it. You know, she truly gets it.
Yeah.
Now,
well, you know, what I find interesting is you take a look at the importance of, you know, the power of respect and consideration and integrity and trust now in organizations and their focus on their customer. You know, when I give my presentations, I often say now customer service has become an oxymoron like jumbo shrimp. It just isn't in existence anymore. But you take a look at organizations like Zappos.com or Edward Jones or, you know, Amazon even. I mean, these organizations were built on the idea of not only the value of customer service, but also the value of respecting the individuals. Or, you know, there's organizations, for example, who say, you know what, we don't have this travel budget anymore. Forget about, you know, imposing a strict travel budget. We trust you, employees, partners, to do the very best to have good stewardship with our money and take care of it the way you would our own, because we trust that you have the company's best interests at heart. Now, who do you think is going to have an organization that continues to grow time after time after time, even in a down economy? Where do people want to work? Yeah. Where do people want to spend their money? If they feel like they've got a relationship, if they're being taken care of, if they matter, look at the Fortune 100. You'll find that 20 of those organizations, 30 of those organizations are known for how they treat not only their customers, but how they treat their employees. And I think that's a fabulous testimonial for the power of positive social smarts.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing many companies seem to miss the mark on along that same line is their support department. especially internet marketers and online companies that obviously don't have the staff behind it, or they just don't put the time in necessary to handle their customers. Because if I've seen it time and again, most recently I've seen a good example of a support department of just a 2-person operation. Phenomenal. And I am a lifelong customer of theirs. I don't care what else they come out with. I know I'll be supported. So if it's something that meets my needs, I'm buying it. And it's something that Kathy and I have acquired collectively for our Celebrity Creators business. So it's, you know, it's support, and all this goes hand in hand. One thing I was wondering, though, in line with this, there's this concept of appreciating one another, appreciation. Is that something that we talk about or share with others, our appreciation for them, enough, in your opinion?
No, I don't think enough at all.
Yeah.
Particularly when, even if we show appreciation, first of all, I think, you know, we complain at least twice as much, if not 3 times as much, as we do actually, you know, talk about good service. And so we don't really go out of our way to thank somebody when we've gotten a good result. But more importantly, when we do, most of the time we thank somebody for the end result, but it never really occurs to us to thank people for the journey.
True.
The fact that they've shared their time, their energy, their resources. I mean, even if I don't have a positive end result, you know, people have been in there with me and been, you know, working in the trenches or doing things that have been important and shared of themselves. I think that in itself is worth appreciation. And when you think about it, aren't you more likely to want to do something for somebody where they actually showed the appreciation for that particular effort? I mean, if somebody really tells me, well, thank you so much, you know, I really appreciate that you did this, or you went out of your way to do such and so, or, you know, I'm more likely to want to help that person again than if they just kind of blew by like they sort of just expected that this was my normal mode of behavior, even if it is my normal mode of behavior. So you really don't want to, you want to be valued. Everybody wants to be valued. And I don't think we tell people nearly enough how much we value them. And that can be said for business. That can be said in our personal lives. Friends and family. When was the last time that you just called somebody up to say thank you for no other reason than, you know what, I was thinking about you and I just wanted to let you know how important you are in my life and what a difference you made. There's so many people out there suffering from depression who just don't, they just don't know how important they are. So will it kill us to be a little bit more thankful, a little bit more appreciative? Absolutely not.
In case I
Now
haven't
this
done it,
is kind of, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in case I haven't said so recently, Kathy, I appreciate you. No, I truly do. I truly do. I know I jest, but I do. I do appreciate you.
Now this is a little bit funny, but it goes along the lines of appreciation. Sometimes it's the small things, okay? But it's true. I got up at 3 a.m. the other morning. I rolled over and my bladder screamed, "You gotta go." And I was so appreciative. I'm not kidding, because I know my husband had gone in there before me at some time during the night, and he always puts the seat down. I mean, and it's kind of silly, but I was actually thinking about this at 3 a.m. the other morning, how much I appreciate the fact that he always puts the seat down for me. So I did tell him, and he looked at me like I was nuts at breakfast, but it is. Sometimes it's the small things, right? But it's true.
I can picture Mike at that moment. That's good.
Yes, he was eating toast. He's like, "You're grateful for what today?" You know?
Well, I guess if that's the only thing you can do right for the day, right? No, it's funny.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes all the difference in the world, right? To start things off on a right footing.
Well, anyway, kind of back on topic. You have such a passion and such a vision for what it is that you do. You know, when Brian and I first met you and talked about it with you and saw you up on stage talking about it, just absolutely amazing. The work that you're doing by traveling the country and talking to all of these school principals. When I say principals, I don't mean the principal of the school, but just principal people that are involved in education across the country. It's phenomenal. So what is your vision with "It's not who you know, it's how you treat them"? I want you to share that with us a little bit.
Well, clearly this is, a piece that was written for the business community. And again, I think, when you look at the younger generations particularly, for a number of different reasons, they may just not have acquired the social capital that they need to succeed both from a professional level and personal level. And I truly believe that if we teach the reading, writing, and arithmetic, and then also help people with those other R's they may not be getting, like respect and resourcefulness and reliability and resilience and responsibility, all those good things, a lot of things that don't have to do with R's. I think if we really can help people learn how important that is and give them those tools, that's not only going to be good for them individually, but it's going to be good for us as a community. And you know, when repeated research shows that 85% of our personal and professional success depends on their social skills, you can understand how much of an impact this makes on our lives. And if we are not becoming a more rude, crude, and indifferent society by the day, you know, I don't know what is happening, but if we can turn that tide a little bit, where we start looking out for one another a little bit more, where we start caring about our fellow man in the generic sense, I think that that's not only going to help restore a lot of the things that have gone wrong in business and otherwise, you know, the ethics and integrity issues that we can't get through a day without hearing about. But I think even the, you know, the bigger picture of we'll go back to that idea of a community and a society rather than this, you know, bordering on anarchy we have. So from a professional standpoint for the book, you know, I'd like to see the book get out more in the business world, but understanding too that the people that are in business right now, especially the young people, are the parents of the next generation.
Good.
And so we not only have the opportunity to help them help themselves, but also then with the next generation start infusing that concept to those kids so that maybe if we get lucky and the creek don't rise, you know, that our kids and our grandkids are going to have or their kids and grandkids are going to have a very, very different experience in this world than we're having currently. And so between the workshops and the speaking engagements and the, you know, the blog's getting great traction. I never thought we'd have all these people coming aboard trying to see what I've written today. But I think the message that there is a better way to do it and that taking care of one another is at least as important as taking care of ourselves. I think even, you know, something as simple as Hurricane Katrina or any natural disaster will show you that first and foremost we have to rely on each other.
Yes.
And if we all watch out for each other, we ourselves will by natural byproduct be taken care of as well because somebody's watching out for us. So it may sound very idealistic and very utopian, but I really would like to start seeing this be the beginning of a wave of people just being a little bit more kind and considerate and compassionate toward one another.
Love it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned something
Beautiful.
before the show, Corrine, if I may bring it up now. As everyone can see beneath us is an image of her book, and if you click on that, you can acquire her book. I believe is $14.95 is right now?
Well, the retail price is $14.95, correct.
Right, and that's this one. And you've put together a special link just for a select few of our viewers that if they go to that link, they have the ability of getting this book at a discounted price. Again, I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it. It is a great read, easy to read, engaging. I was reading it during my son's basketball practice, and I love sports, and my attention did not waver from the book. Until my son got yelled at. No, I'm kidding. He didn't get yelled at. But I like to have fun, too. But no, seriously, you should pick up this book. And do you mind if I show that link to our viewers now, Corrine?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. And by the way, there have been a lot of people that have actually ordered bulk orders as gifts, for example, for their offices. For example, an orthodontist I know, instead of giving the monthly donuts or whatever, you know, cookies and donuts that he does with his referring dentist, actually bought 50 copies of the book to hand out instead. Beautiful. And so this is the idea of being able to pay that forward. So if people want bulk orders, contact me via email. Don't use that link, and we'll provide a special deal.
Fantastic. And for those that might have difficulty reading that, let me just quickly read it out loud. It's http://tinyurl.com/2 the letter V is in Victor WXLDO. All characters are in lowercase. If you cannot see that, you can just hear this. tinyurl.com/2VWXLDO. And we greatly appreciate you making that offer to our viewers here, Corrine. And there's only a limited number that she's going to be able to sell it at this discounted price. So be sure to jump on that as soon as you can. It's worth it even at the full price. Come on, $14.95. That's nothing. If you want to get a discount, go to the tiny URL that we just gave you and pick up a copy.
Well, the other thing is, great stocking stuffer.
Oh,
great
perfect.
Stocking stuffer.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And if they want to check it out, there is a free chapter download off the website, off the It's Not Who You Know, It's How You Treat Them.com website. They can go ahead and, sample the preview chapter, and they can still use that link if they have it available to order the full book.
And for that URL, I'm just going to hold up the book because, oh, wait, I got to put myself on camera there. That would help. But along with...
Yeah, you have to put the camera
ladies, on. But the URL is all of that. And there's no apostrophe, no punctuation, no comma, and no spaces. Just put it all together.com, and that will take you directly to the page that she talks about where you can download a free chapter. Which chapter is that, by the way?
Chapter 2.
All right.
The one about attitude.
Love it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I figured, again, if they don't have their attitude aligned properly, then everything else is going to kind of fall flat anyway. So we might as well start it out with attitude.
That's very key to the entire message you are conveying to the reader. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Hey, Kathy and I have been through a lot of...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've been through a lot of trainings, if you will, about attitude and gratefulness and that kind of thing. And it does make a huge difference if you change your attitude from perhaps bad or not as good as it could be to good, and be grateful about everything in life, and it can just change your whole world. And then, like you're saying, Corrine, take the focus off yourself, put it on the other individual. And as Kathy and I have seen firsthand by implementing similar approach, it's fun. It's so fun. It's so rewarding how you engage with that individual.
So anyway, that was excellent, and I'm so glad that you got that in because that's very true. And as always, we come to the end of our hour faster than we intend it to be. So I just want to say thank you so much, Corrine, for coming on. It was a pleasure to physically meet you a couple of months ago and see you and hug you and connect with you. You're just an amazing woman doing amazing things, and just know that it's making a difference in the world around us. The other thing that I want to say is Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. At the beginning of the hour, I said that this is going to be our last show for 2010. Brian and I are going to be back on January 4th, and we hope that you join us because we have got some phenomenal things to share with our viewers. We've got some great guests lined up for the first quarter of next year. We're very, very excited. But again, I just want to extend my heartfelt thanks for sharing your very important mission, Corrine, with us today. And I am going to pass it back over to Brian.
And I always echo her sentiments because she puts it so properly. I mean, it's perfect. Corrine, thank you so much for spending not just this 1 hour with us, but of course the time and preparation leading up to this. And without Kathy's help, none of this could be put together. She does a great job of
without you
putting everything. I appreciate you, and but in all seriousness, Corrine, for me as well, you really did make an impact when I was able to meet you physically at Craig Duswalt's event there a few months back, and I'm so happy that we made this connection and that you decided to come onto this show with us, and we hope to have you back again. Perhaps if you have another book in the works, or even some new things going on with your current approach in business, as you were telling us in secret before the show. We hope that goes well. Anything we can do to help you, let us know. But I
appreciate that.
Fantastic. And with that, I would also like to thank all of you viewers that are watching us tonight. We know you could be somewhere else tonight. We appreciate you hanging on with us for this entire hour. As Kathy said, this is our last show for the year. 2010 has been a very good year. Had a lot of fantastic guests, but the best is yet to come. No slight on Corrine because she's going to be one of those again. So, all right, just make sure I get that in there. And Corrine, I appreciate you too. And with that,
thanks, guys.
We're going to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you on January 4th. Good night now.
Night.
Good night.